One of my first gigs was at a predominantly Latino school, and they didn't have a teacher. And they were hungry to learn, and they were hungry to just be engaged in the classroom. I mean, this is a tier 1+ school. In CPS, that's pretty up there, right? And no one was showing up to teach these kids.
That's Matthew Angeles. He's one of about 24 students in DePaul University's middle grades education class. The course prepares new teachers to work in 5th to 8th grade classrooms.
Focus on making sure that you're asking questions.
And that voice you're hearing?
Okay.
That's Roxanne Owens, these future teachers' teacher. You'll hear from her later, because right now, she's preparing them for their new jobs this fall. But there aren't nearly enough of them, not in Chicago and not nationwide. Add in a growing number of veteran faculty members who say they've had enough, and a decade-long teacher shortage is going from bad to worse.
We define a teacher shortage as that there aren't enough fully credentialed teachers to fill every position where they're needed. This has actually been an ongoing issue, and it's something that we started writing about and researching with a report that we put out back in 2016.
Before working at the Learning Policy Institute, Desiree was an elementary school teacher in New York. She's seen the landscape of education change a lot over the years.
9 out of 10 positions that need to be filled are to replace someone who has left. And most of the teachers who leave are not leaving for retirement, they're actually leaving mid-career. So, being able to keep some of those individuals in the teaching profession would really help to mitigate shortages, because those are positions that wouldn't need to be filled year after year after year.
Check out these numbers from the most recent school year, 2021 to 2022. 48 states in Washington, D.C. said they didn't have enough special education teachers. 43 states in D.C. said they needed more math teachers. And 41 states in D.C. had a shortage of science teachers. This isn't a strictly pandemic-related problem. Desiree says the Institute started noticing an increase of unfilled teaching positions about 10 years earlier.
During the Great Recession, lots of teachers were laid off, so that's sort of an excess of teachers, if you will. And, as districts and schools started to recover, were able to fill those positions that might have been cut. They were finding that there wasn't this pool of teachers who were ready to come back into the classroom. And at the same time, there's been a decline in the number of people going into teacher preparation.
Within a 10-year time frame, the number of people completing a teacher education program declined by 1/3. And in 2019, colleges and universities around the country distributed less than 90,000 bachelor's degrees in education. But Amber Alton always knew she'd be getting one of those degrees.
I like the word educator. My grandmother was an educator. My great aunts were educators. My grandfather. It's just always been a part of me. I knew I wanted to be a teacher at a very early age. My mom kind of fostered that for me as well. I love learning, and I love explaining and teaching and leaving people with understanding.
Amber taught 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade throughout her almost decade-long career. But it was around 2016 when she noticed her peers were leaving the field.
I was there 3 years, and I saw 27 people leave, come and go. 27 in 3 years. And I remember counting well, she left, she left, she left. And when I tell you great teachers, 25, 30 years in, I remember feeling man, I don't know if this is gonna be long-term for me.
Turned out, it wasn't. Like many of her coworkers, Amber went from teacher to former teacher.
And I just knew it was time. It was time. I needed to step back before I resented it, and I didn't want to get to that point. And this shortage really made my, it widened my eyes to what's really going on. And it's very sad, because it's the students that are going to suffer the most.
So why are all of these teachers leaving? Well, that's kind of an all of the above type of answer.
Teachers make about 20% less than other college-educated professionals, but they pay about the same amount to get their college degrees and become teachers. And so there needs to be a greater incentive to become a teacher.
I think that people get tired of feeling like they're not paid in accord with the number of hours that they work. So I think that gets old. I think not feeling appreciated also gets really old for a lot of people.
I hate to say it, but and then there's a lack of respect for teachers, right? Oh, you're a high school teacher? Why aren't you teaching at the university level? I don't know why people aren't more respectful of the profession. I mean, someone tells me a teacher, I'm automatically impressed.
In surveys, teachers also cited a lack of resources and little to no support from community and school administration as to why they didn't return to the classroom. And that puts a lot more pressure on the educators that do decide to stay. So until there are enough teachers to fill every classroom, school districts and states are doing anything they can to fill in the gaps. Listen to this. In Arizona, public school teachers no longer need to have a college degree to teach. They just need to be enrolled in a teaching program. Some school districts in Texas are increasing teacher salaries, while others are switching to 4-day work weeks as an incentive to recruit and retain teachers. And in New Mexico, the governor called on the National Guard to fill some substitute positions in the state. Now, it's too soon to know how these initiatives, and others like them, will impact the students, or if they will even help solve the shortage problem. But because many of these changes are temporary, people in the education system say that some real, tangible things need to happen, and soon.
The state of education, how do we not make that the most important thing that we focus on?
It's not something that just popped up in the past year or two. It's something that's been ongoing and that will need sustained investment and focus in order to turn around. And it's something that, Band-Aid solutions are not going to solve, and in fact may, further exacerbate the issue that we have before us.
I think if even 5 years ago, if that would have been the driving force of districts to fully support and listen to the educators and what they're saying is and is not working, they would not be in here 2022 trying to throw dollars to get them to stay, because that's not enough. It's not enough anymore.